Today we continue Season 3 with War of the Coprophages. A coprophage is an eater of feces, so I think a war with them is based upon the principle of, ew, kill it with fire! Considering we start with the roach and a monologue about it, thousands of species, which is true, most of them aren't pests, and contrary to popular wisdom and this guy, they aren't radiation-proof, as there are lots of insects alone that are more radiation-resistant than roaches.
Unlike us, they are incapable of thought, of self-illumination. Compared to the roach, we are gods and must therefore act accordingly.
Note to self, don't let this guy get the powers of Q. Though admittedly this guy is an exterminator, so killing bugs is really his first reaction. I mean, maybe he doesn't do it at home, but I think when you're in the trenches with bugs day in and day out, that you can't stop those razor-honed instincts that have kept you alive from kicking in and squashing purely as a reflex. It's the price paid for their service to us. This one, though, is in trouble on account of he's in an X-Files episode. So one of the roaches survives not only the spray, but also being stepped on. And almost immediately he grabs at his throat, then soon collapses and roaches spill out all around him. And when the owner of the house, who's already terrified of bugs, comes down to see a pest exterminator dying while covered in roaches, well, he freaks the hell out. It's like being superstitious and knowing that it's all silly, only you watch a black cat casually cross in front of a man's path on Friday the 13th, then whirl around and tear his throat out. You can't unsee that stuff. After the truth is out there, we catch up with Mulder, who's out watching the night sky since his building is being fumigated. When I say watching, by the way, I do mean watching. Mulder doesn't stare at the sky, he watches it for aliens. There were strange lights seen in the night sky here recently.
Did you ever look up into the night sky and feel certain that not only was something up there, but it was looking down on you at that exact same moment and was just as curious about you as you are about it?
Yeah, I do sometimes worry about drones that might record me on the toilet. Scully's answer is, if anything, even crueler than that.
Mulder, I think the only thing more fortuitous than the emergence of life on this planet is that through purely random laws of biological evolution, an intelligence as complex as ours ever emanated from it. The very idea of intelligent alien life is not only astronomically improbable, but at its most basic level, downright anti-Darwinian.
Funny how both can have such opposing views and still be wrong. Scully is wrong because there are aliens in the X-Files world, and Mulder is wrong because those aliens are assholes. After they're done talking, a cop comes by to ask Mulder what he's up to, sitting out here alone at night in his car.
Sitting and thinking. And talking on the phone? Who with you, drug dealer?
That's not exactly unfair. Looking at Mulder's expression, I'd wonder if he'd been smoking pot. Listening to him talk, well, that would just confirm it. Mulder shows his FBI badge finally, and the cop changes course real fast. But when Mulder mentions a bug on his car, the cop reaches for his gun, although I've seen cops pull their guns for lesser reasons than that. He's quickly called away, though.
Sorry to disturb you, sir.
What's the matter?
Another roach attack.
I know you're concerned about pot, but I've never seen anyone attacked by their own roach before. Mulder checks out the dead exterminator and calls Scully, telling her to come up here to figure out these cockroaches that are murdering people. The latest of 3 incidents. It seems crazy, but Mulder says that the people reporting this are scientists. And while all people should be equally believed, you do tend to be more believing of killer cockroach when it comes from a PhD than from a guy who, say, cleans lobster traps for a living. But Scully asks about bites from the roaches, and Mulder admits there aren't any, which suggests that rather than being hunted by a gang of cockroach spree killers, it's more likely that these people are just allergic to roaches. There are millions of people who have that condition and probably don't even know it.
Still want me to come up?
No. I'm sure you're right. Thanks, Scully.
Who was that?
A drug dealer?
On that subject, we find some teens who are using some complex chemistry apparatus to get high. Which just goes to show that if you want to get kids engaged in science, show them how they can get stoned off their gourd with it. But as he goes on about it, we see a roach escape his mound of what I can only guess is a literal pile of crap, and soon he starts going nuts, scratching his arm, thinking roaches are crawling into his body, and then reaches for the razor blade. When we next see him, he's dead, and Mulder thinks Scully may need to come up there, except that she points out that his behavior is consistent with certain forms of drug abuse, convinced you're seeing insects and you cut yourself open trying to get them out.
Still want me to come up?
No, you're probably right.
Besides, for some reason the sheriff thinks you're a drug dealer. Mulder spots a cockroach at the scene and grabs it, but it disintegrates in his hand. He assumes that it was just the exoskeleton after molting, except that it's made of metal. Perhaps it's some kind of roach terminator, sent back from after the nuclear war when roach kind has taken over the planet. Hey, it's no weirder than most of the theories on this show. The doctor who treats him is worried that something terrible is going to happen to him and his family, but Mulder has no answer for him. So in keeping with the show's theme, the doctor heads off to take a dump, unaware the entire time that roaches are all around him. Although if he was, that probably would give him a little performance anxiety. While he's facing that well-timed visit from the Coprophages, Mulder learns that he's not the only federal agent in town. There's someone from the Department of Agriculture doing some kind of secret study. And the fear is that, like the accident that gave us killer bees, killer cockroaches may have been unleashed. Which seems pretty ridiculous.
What the hell happened?
Cockroaches. He was covered in cockroaches.
Well, I suppose we can't rule anything out completely at this point. The orderly says that he was covered in roaches, except that when he came back, they had all vanished. Luckily, this time they found one.
Doesn't appear on there.
Alright, stick to aliens, Mulder. You're never going to lose one of them down the sink. Mulder calls up Scully again, but before he can even finish, she asks if one of the guy's eyes is bloodshot with a dilated pupil. Well, it is, which is a sign that he had a brain aneurysm, which can happen to you if you strain too hard on the toilet. The connection to all the cockroaches, though, is what is perplexing. But Scully comes up with a theory. Cockroaches in America have a different set of behavior than ones in other countries. If some were introduced accidentally in this area, their unusual behavior may merely be in calling attention to otherwise normal deaths. After all, each death has a plausible, even mundane, explanation to it. What's weird about them is the commonality of roaches. Mulder is more of the view that digging through federal buildings is the idea, so he breaks into that secret place in town. What is again weird, though, is that this place, it's just a house, like anybody would live in. Not that anyone would want to in this case. He freaks out, drawing attention of the two-legged variety.
I'm a federal agent.
So am I.
Agent Mulder, FBI.
Dr. Berenbaum, USDA, Agricultural Research Service.
Put that away. What are you going to do, arrest some corn? She's out here studying cockroaches and how they function in a typical human environment. The more they know, the better they can control them. You know, as in control the size of their population, not sending them out to do their bidding. Although a string of cockroach-related deaths plus her fascination does smell like trouble. Mulder, check the closets. See if you can find a costume with an antenna on it. Possibly a tape announcing her plans to take over the world. I mean, this is an origin story right here. I just know it. Mulder is curious about something she's rigged up, which causes electricity to pass through a cockroach and make it glow. It's her theory that bugs passing through electrically charged air are what are actually responsible for UFO sightings. The light, the strange movement, the interference, the hum, it all makes sense. Except it's wrong, because aliens are real. And assholes.
Eat, sleep, defecate, procreate. That's all they do. That's all we do, but at least insects don't kid themselves that it's anything more than that. Does my scientific detachment disturb you?
No, it's your unparalleled cynicism towards the human race that disturbs me.